Once upon a time, in a village nestled between rolling hills and whispering trees, there lived an old man. He was a simple man, spending his days tending to his garden and his nights sleeping in his little hut. But there was something about him that set him apart from the other villagers. Every morning he would sit down on a chair in front of his house, and every evening he would rise. During all this time, nobody ever heard a sound coming from him. Neither did he speak nor make any noise. But that wasn't the strangest thing about him. In front of the chair, he had placed a small wooden sign that read, "Silence 5 coins a minute." Throughout the years, people passed by his house and they saw the sign. Most of them scoffed at the idea of paying for silence. They felt that it was ridiculous and absurd. They mocked him, calling him names like Silent Man or Coin Man. But a few curious ones stopped by, sat down, and paid the fee. But after a while, they would get up and leave without paying the old man. One day, a famous writer by the name of Andrin came to the village. He was known throughout the land for writing beautiful stories and novels. But lately, he had lost his inspiration and was going through a bad phase in his life. He was frustrated with the noise of the people around him, the pressure to produce more and better work, and the looming deadlines. He wanted to escape all this chaos and find some peace. So when he saw the old man sitting quietly, he decided to approach him. As he sat down on the chair, he took out his pouch and said, "How much do I owe you?" The old man simply replied, "You don't owe me anything yet. You haven't started the timer." Intrigued, Andrin asked, "What do I get if I pay?" To which the old man gestured towards the sign and said, "As it says here, silence. You will have my silence, and you can enjoy some peace." Andrin thought about it for a moment. He had been searching for peace and quiet for so long now, and this old man seemed to be offering just that. So he agreed. Andrin sat down on the chair and closed his eyes. The old man started the timer, and the minutes ticked by. At first, it was hard for Andrin to relax. He could still hear the noise of the wind, the birds, and the people in the distance. But as the minutes turned into 10, he began to feel a sense of calm wash over him. The old man kept his silence, and that silence was like a soothing balm on Adrian's frayed nerves. It was as though the noise around him had faded away, and he was the only person in the world. As he sat there, he noticed that he could hear his own heartbeat and his breath. It was strange, but he didn't mind. He closed his eyes and let the silence envelop him. Suddenly, amidst the silence, he heard a voice. It was his own voice. He could hear himself thinking, and it was like a revelation to him. He had been so busy trying to block out the noise that he hadn't realized that the loudest noise was coming from inside of him. All his worries, his fears, and his thoughts were echoing in his head and drowning out the sounds around him. But now that he had silenced the outside world, he could hear his inner voice loud and clear. He continued to sit in silence, listening to his thoughts. And it was in that moment that he realized what the old man had meant when he said, "You'll meet someone you've forgotten." He had forgotten himself, he had forgotten the peace that resided within him. He had forgotten the strength of his own spirit. But now that he was in silence, he was remembering all these things. Andrin sat in silence for what felt like hours, but in reality was only a few minutes. When he finally opened his eyes, he felt like a new person. He felt peaceful, calm, and grateful. He stood up from the chair and thanked the old man for helping him find himself again. He reached for his pouch and pulled out 50 coins and handed them to the old man. "Here," he said, "you undercharged." The old man looked at him curiously. "What do you mean?" he asked. "You said that I would have to pay 5 coins a minute for your silence, but I think that was an understatement. You helped me find myself again. You helped me remember who I was and how to be at peace. That is priceless. So I think 50 coins is a more fair price." The old man smiled and accepted the money. He had seen many people come and go, but Andrin was the first one who had really understood the value of silence. As word spread throughout the village about the old man and his silence, more and more people came to see him. At first, They too came for the same reason as a drain, to escape the noise and chaos of their lives. But as they sat on the chair and experienced the silence, they discovered something else. They discovered themselves. They discovered the peace that resided within them. They discovered the strength of their own spirit. Soon, the chair became a place of healing and transformation. People would come and sit on it, not to escape the outside world, but to find themselves again. They would sit in silence and listen to the sound of their own inner voice, and when they came out of the experience, they would be changed forever. As the years went by, the old man's hut became a well-known spot in the village. It was a place where people would come to find peace and quiet, but also a place where they would come to find themselves again. The silence of the old man was a gift to the people of the village, and they cherished it. But one day, the old man disappeared. One moment he was there, sitting on his chair, and the next moment he was gone. The people of the village were shocked and saddened. They didn't know where he had gone or what had happened to him. But as they gathered around his hut, they found a new sign. The sign that was on his chair before was now hanging on the wall of his hut, and it read, "The silence is now within you. No charge." The people were confused. What did the sign mean? Had the old man really left them? Were they now supposed to carry on without him? They didn't understand. But as they pondered over the meaning of the sign, they realized that the old man was right. The silence wasn't in the chair anymore. It was in them. They had found themselves again. They had found the peace that resided within them. They had found the strength of their own spirit. And as they sat on the chair, they could hear the sound of their own inner voice. They could hear themselves thinking, and it was like a revelation to them. They had been so busy trying to block out the noise that they had unrealized that the loudest noise was coming from inside of them. All their worries, their fears, and their thoughts were echoing in their head and drowning out the sounds around them. But now that they had silenced the outside world, they could hear their inner voice loud and clear. Andrin, who had been the first to sit on the chair, was deeply moved by the sign. He knew that the old man had left them a final gift, a reminder that the silence was now within them. He picked up the sign and held it close to his heart. He knew that he would never forget the lessons he had learned from the old man. From that day on, the chair remained in the village, and anyone who sat on it could experience the silence that had become a part of them. The legacy of the old man lived on in the hearts and minds of the people. Andrin finished his greatest book, which he called When Silence Speaks. It was a story about a man who had found himself again through the power of silence. And in the dedication he wrote, "To the old man who taught us that silence isn't empty. It's the one voice that never lies." And so the tale of the old man in the chair was passed down from generation to generation. A reminder to everyone who heard it to listen to the silence within themselves.